The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Tell Us Why, a podcast for the financial freedom community. If you're looking to succeed in your quest for financial freedom, make sure you join us every week as we, along with our guests, discuss different stories of success, how they were achieved, and how you can do the same. And of course, we ask them to tell us why. Here are your hosts, Jack and Mike.
Welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast. I'm your host, Jack Darrapple, here alongside my co-host, Mr. Michael Ketchin.
How we doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
All right.
Through it.
Today we are talking with Lauren and Kyle Clugston. Kyle and Lauren are a husband and wife real estate investing team building long-term wealth, one rental property at a time, all while working that 9 to 5. But before we bring Kyle and Lauren in studio, Mike, what's up with the business?
Things are good. We, as you know, got a little bit going on. Working on. I wrote it the other day. Working on stabilizing about 45 units, buying an Airbnb, selling an Airbnb.
Picking up an Airbnb.
Picking up another one. So things are good. What do you got going on?
Picking up an Airbnb.
No, but you're picking up one too.
We're doing that.
I like it.
We're doing that.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna get after it.
One thing I wanted to touch on today is I got a couple people that I'm working with to actually create businesses.
Really?
I just want to touch on one of them that keeps calling. They just have they keep talking themselves out of
Starting the business.
Like basically using any negative that could potentially happen into completely not starting the business at all whatsoever. And you just have to change that mindset. I'm calling them out here. They know exactly who they are. I'm calling you out right now. You need to get out of that mindset. Stop doing it.
Pull the trigger.
Rich.
Pull the trigger and let's go.
But move on, bring Lauren and Kyle in studio.
I think so. I'm excited to get to it.
Our sponsor.
Yeah, let's hear from Keith first.
Are you sick of being treated like just another number by large insurance companies? Do you want a more personalized experience with somebody that you can trust? With Keith Monteith, that's exactly what you'll get. Keith is an experienced professional who can design an insurance plan tailored to fit your specific needs. With access to over 30 insurance carriers, Keith is able to shop numerous markets to find a price that works for you. So if you want an insurance agent that you can rely on and one that has your best interests at heart, then call or text Keith today on 978-241-2363. That's 978-241-2363. Keith Monty. He'll get you covered.
All right. Lauren and Kai have built a brand for themselves through Instagram and on their YouTube channels called Rental to Wealth. They have also been featured on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Kind of think that's a big deal.
I think they're a big deal. I think they're doing some pretty impressive stuff.
Agree. Primarily focusing on Burr properties in New Jersey. Kyle, Lauren, welcome to the Tell Us Why podcast.
What is going on? Thank you for having us.
Dude, we're excited, man.
Thank you guys for being here. And I think right off the rip, Jack just hit on it. I mean, you guys are just unbelievable social media mavens, so we want to make sure we get into it. But just again, the handle was Rentals to Wealth, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you got to check it out. Some of the best content I've seen on real estate investing out there. So definitely make sure you hit them up on that.
To give a little background story here, my brother is the executive producer of the Tell Us Why podcast. He was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast when they had requested an editor. Jake had reached out and connected with them, and he duped them into letting him work for them. So
That's awesome.
Great job, Jake. They'll figure it out one day. Don't worry.
That's awesome.
Hey, good job. You just got him fired next week.
I told you that was the goal of this podcast.
Content for us, I'll tell you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We'll change your mind. Don't worry. We will change your mind.
Divorce because we're spending so much time editing.
But it's all been part of this mindset shift. I mean, you mentioned something earlier that we can dive into later, but it's all part of that mindset shift.
Kind of giving up control and
calling your buddy out on.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And I want to get right into it because, we want to tell the people out there, what we're doing here. You guys are active. You guys are actually doing it. You're designing this lifestyle. You're in your pursuit of financial freedom while Jack mentioned still working a 9 to 5. So what we like to do is kind of kick it off with where are you at in your business right now and where are you at in life? And then we'll kind of work back from there. Why don't you guys kick it off with that?
Perfect. So in our business right now, we are currently working on building our real estate portfolio, which consists of 10 units, 6 properties. So a mixture of triplexes, duplexes, single families. We do a mixture of BRRRR, and then we're also big fans of house hacking. So we're sitting in our house hack right now. We're working on the renovation on our unit, and then we'll be starting the renovation on the other side in a little bit. But we're definitely in that like growth stage. We're in a very transformative stage, I would say, because we've been very hands-on thus far, and we're really looking to scale and grow our business and start treating it more like a business. And so we hope to be a little hands-off in the future.
Yeah, we're trying to definitely shift from working so much in it and more on it, and that'll enable us to kind of increase the number of properties that we're doing a year. We have goals that we would like to get to, cash flow goals, and we're not going to get there really doing it ourselves. So hiring things out, like I just met with a contractor to do next door right before talking to you guys. So
yeah, we don't want Kyle swinging the hammer anymore.
Yeah.
And that was also a thought process with how we just mentioned before, reaching out for an editor. We were spending so much time editing our videos each week. We weren't really thinking about how can we make the videos better? How can we better market them? How can we better serve our audience? I was so focused on like, should I keep this 15-second clip in here of me painting this wall instead of the bigger picture?
Or can that time now be used to search for other properties?
Yeah. And then where we are in life, our real estate business and our life is very intermingled at the moment, considering we live in the properties that we house hack. So where are we in life right now? We're just like settling into our new home. We've moved.
A lot.
We moved like 7 times in the last 5 years. So very.
That's a great answer, Kyle.
Because we utilize
house hack
our
life
financing in our multifamilies in our nicer markets that we invest in. It's been 3 times in the past
like year.
So 2 years.
We plan on staying in this place for a couple of years, settling down, maybe starting a family.
And probably move in 6 months. Perfect.
Because we've been a little busy.
Oh yeah, and just to be clear, and it sounds like there are still some 9-to-5s going on during all of this as well, correct?
Oh yeah.
So just to step back, and we talk about in the community all the time. Yep. You have 2 absolute rock stars on this call right now who are growing a portfolio, growing a business, making the mindset shift. But the thing that you just said that gets lost, and I want to give credit to you guys, and we talk about this a lot, is you're not becoming complacent. You're not just going through the motions. You're having a goal that you're clearly defining, and you realize we've got to systematize some of this. We've got to scale this to hit these goals, and you're taking actionable steps towards it. And I just think that's, go back and listen to that again when you hear this episode. There's no excuses being made. We're working jobs, we're moving, we're house hacking. But oh, by the way, we're also now realizing here's our end place, and we're starting to put those systems in place. And we've all been there. I mean, we say it all the time. People will jump over $1 to pick up a quarter. It's, you got to really take a step back and kind of get to where you want to get to. So that was awesome. That was a great first answer for sure.
So one thing, just to clarify, what are the 9-to-5s? What are you guys doing?
I work for a university. I do a mixture of video production and marketing for online programs.
And I am a detective in the New Jersey State Police.
All right, awesome.
All right.
So how did you guys kind of transition? What was your why? What made you transition into real estate investing?
We don't have this like super strong why of like, oh, we got sick and we realized life is short, or we have children and we want to spend time with them. I think we just early on realized seeing our parents and seeing other people and hearing other people's stories and hearing their whys and just thinking, like, I think about the future all the time. So I thought, well, maybe we should start focusing on setting ourselves and putting ourselves into a position that, God forbid, we ever do have a life-threatening, sickness or an accident, or maybe we do, or hopefully we have a family and we want to spend a lot of time with them. How can we position ourselves now to make that transition easier so we don't put ourselves in this hard spot? And we were in the process of looking for our first home anyway. And we just thought, if house hacking is an option and we're going to buy a house anyway, how can we turn that house into an asset instead of a liability? And house hacking and real estate investing just fit with us perfectly.
And it eased a lot of fears of we were going to take on a project for the first time. We were going to take on managing a tenant for the first time. Just living in that investment just made sense.
And then it was like a perfect combination of our skill sets, which is funny because you think that by having complete opposite skill sets would actually be hard on a marriage, which is business, which is the root of all of our arguments. Kyle is very present and can see problems now, and I'm always thinking in the future. But from a business standpoint, it has been amazing because it's a waste of time for us to both be doing the same task. We should just be splitting them up and focusing on our strengths. And so Kyle was super handy, had a lot of knowledge in construction. I had, I wouldn't say I'm great at finance, but better at finance, and had like the long-term goals and thought process. So putting those together, real estate just became a really great solution to a potential problem in the future.
For sure.
Yeah. And I also own my company with my wife, and we've scaled together. So I'm right there with you. And I didn't even connect that dot. That's a dynamic we have in common, where you just hit the nail on the head. I'm willing to bet that your foundation, your core beliefs probably align people-wise, but then you kind of complement each other's skills is what it sounds like. So that's another great answer. And again, go back and make sure you listen to that as well, because this is the person you want to build with. This is what you're doing it all for. But now getting into business with that person sometimes is, as you mentioned, it's really hard to kind of separate the two. Now, do you guys have any systems on how you manage that relationship to keep the business and the personal separate? Because my problem is I can't turn it off. And my wife is like, she loves the lifestyle it gives us, but she's not obsessed. And I'm like that sicko who's just like, I'm in Montana and I'm thinking about real estate. I'm over here thinking about, I can't turn it off. So what do you guys, any tips for the people out there listening?
For a long time, for a couple of years, we interweaved personal life with business. And it would be like, we would be eating dinner and then all of a sudden we'd be in the middle of a business talk, or it would be first thing in the morning and Lauren would be asking me something about scheduling. And it became really heavy. And we would get into arguments, and it just wasn't working until we read Traction by Gino Wickman. And in that book, it was a little bit more business based and not real estate based, but you could still take a lot of things away from it. One being weekly, quarterly, and annual meetings. So we started to implement weekly meetings where it was like business talk happens during that meeting. Outside of that meeting, it's just Kyle and Lauren, husband and wife. And
if there is questions outside of that meeting, I now, instead of say, hey, when's the plumber coming? I preface it with, hey, where's your head at? Can I ask you a business question? And sometimes he'll say no. And I'm like, okay.
I might steal that one.
That's actually great.
Conversations are held for those meetings.
Yeah.
And that was a huge game changer for us and our relationship, both business and personal.
Yeah, because I joke, I call it a safe space, because I can be that nagging partner that wants updates and has all the questions, and it's allowed to happen at this time. And it gives me, I don't know, it just gives me like an outlet. So during the week when I have a question or I have an idea, I just write it down, save it in my notes, as long as it's not, crucial. And I just wait till our meeting. And that has been
because then we're not having those super heavy talks during, you get home from work, you're tired. You're already in that mindset going in that meeting. We're about to talk business.
Wow. Yeah. And then also just clearly defining our roles was big. So the first 2 or 3 years, everything is so fun. We both want to go to Home Depot and shop for light fixtures. We both want to tour all the properties. We both want to meet all the subs. We both want to meet all the tenants. And it's just not efficient. Yeah. And I'm glad we did do that in the first couple of years, because it gave us an idea and an understanding of each task. And then we could figure out who was good at that task. And now we're at the point where Kyle met with multiple contractors this week. I did not meet any of them. That's not my purpose. We debriefed afterwards. What did you like about them? What didn't you like? What thoughts did you have? But I spent the time doing lease renewals and increasing rents and maintenance calls. So it took us a while to figure out whose lane do these tasks fall in. But once we got there, it has worked wonders.
Yeah, that is awesome.
That's fantastic information. Last week's episode, we touched on the fact that my wife was potentially looking to come on board.
Yep.
So when she listens to this, it's going to be straight gold. So I appreciate that.
I'm a little afraid for my wife to listen to it, because it put me in a box. I think my brain would explode. But no, it's you guys just hit the nail on the head right there. And it's funny. I've heard Traction recommended by so many people, and we're scaling again ourselves. So maybe that's something to check out. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Jake,
you know what I mean?
Bought me that book for my birthday, I think, and it is on my list, and that is now going to the top of the list of books.
Top of the list.
So I just checked
Look
my
at
phone.
That. Real-time recommendations. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. So, yeah, like I said, what do we...
Let's dig into the YouTube. How did the YouTube channel come about? I'm really intrigued by that. And you guys have, I mean, the episodes are fantastic. Like 1,000%, it's fantastic. How did that come about? How does that process work? Just tell me all about it, I guess. Tell me everything.
Because that's another... people don't realize, and we're going through it right now, honestly. Building a brand is another job. It's a grind. And I always respected that. But one thing we were excited to talk to you guys about is until you're kind of in it, you know, you don't realize how hard this is. So what you're doing, dead serious, it's incredibly impressive to have that level of content with all this other stuff you have going on. So yeah, well, how did that come about? What does that look like?
Yeah, thank you. So it's interesting because when we first started, we had no intentions of like starting this brand, but we were like, let's start an Instagram. Let's document what we're doing for a bunch of reasons. One, we didn't want to spam our friends and family. And two, we just thought it'd be cool to have documentation so that we could go back and look and go, oh yeah, like we did that or we made that mistake. Mm-hmm. But one thing that we were strategic about when we first started was I'm a decently big fan of Gary Vee, and his big thing is like document, don't create. So we never will talk about how to screen tenants unless we are actively screening tenants, and we'll just take you along with us. Like we try very hard to not create content. Yeah. We try to just bring you along with us on our journey, share what we're going through, and if that's helpful, great. But you know, people will be like, can you do a video on this? Can you do a video on that? And I'm like, I'll do a video on it when we get there, but I'm not just going to like create, 5 tips for, finding a BRRRR unless we're actively looking for a BRRRR.
So like and Instagram it turned out to become a little bit limited. So what we couldn't, Lauren started a blog where she wrote and documented everything we were doing, and you can access that through our Instagram. But other than posts and stories, which go away, it's hard to dive in deeper on things that we're doing, whether renovation wise, management wise, on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So YouTube enabled us to really kind of dive deeper and take you really along with us with everything that we're doing.
And then from more of like a business side, as you guys know, posting and replying to DMs, like it's super time consuming and we love it. We answer every DM. We try to give really thoughtful responses. We love to help people get to a point that could be life-changing for them, but it is time consuming and we are working on a million different things. And we wanted to figure out a way to somehow like monetize all of this effort, but we didn't want to charge people for it. We just felt like these people, our audience and people follow along with us. Like we like providing that free content. So how can we keep giving them free content, but still get compensated for our time? And so YouTube is a great way to do that through ad revenue and sponsorships and things like that. So we like that we're able to provide the free content at the expense of larger businesses and corporations.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's unbelievable. I mean, just the actionable tips have been great. This is what we're built on, is actionable advice. So this has been absolutely great. Absolutely great.
So moving on to, I guess, the future, where are you guys headed? Where's your business headed? And I mean, watching your show, it seems like I could see you guys on TV at some point. Is that ever been discussed? Is that something you guys talk about? Or
absolutely. Have you guys thought about that?
Jumping the gun here.
We get asked the question, but we love being able to own our own path and be able to, what we want to show is what we show. We don't want to, like Lauren saying, camera on the shoulder, what we're doing at that time. We don't want to have to create situations and to just for the sake of sharing it.
We've been on a few like production company interviews, and I feel they tend to they're like, well, okay, but do you stage your rentals? Like, would that be something you'd be interested in doing? And so now, are we going to get to a point where we're now doing things for the sake of the show and not necessarily for the sake of what's good for us and for our tenants and for the business? So not to say we would say no, but we love owning our process, our brand, our content, and feeling closer with our audience. I'd rather have we're all about small but mighty portfolio. We'd rather have like a small but mighty audience where like we're really giving to them rather than having like this huge mass audience that we never get to speak to.
Yeah.
I've never heard it presented that way. Small but mighty.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very great. And you can definitely tell the Gary Vee. I'm a big fan myself, and you see it coming up where he talks about being genuine, and genuine will hold up, and really building your brand. And you just nailed it, Kyle. Owning the content. And, I believe in the investing space, we talk about this all the time. Over the next 10 to 15 years especially, it's going to start to lead to opportunities. And I'm curious, have you guys found any deals, or has any network or anything come from this branding of being out there and putting yourself out there? Is that leading to deals and opportunities? Are you finding it? And have you had any experience with any of that?
A little bit. We haven't been super strategic about mixing the two of our real estate business and then like rentals to wealth. We used to joke early on that what was good for rentals to wealth wasn't necessarily good for our business, because a lot of our audience loves the DIY and the hands-on side of us. And that's not necessarily what's going to be great for our business long-term.
So it's like, cool, we can hire a contractor to do it, but like, that's not sexy. Like
people like watching Kyle curse out the chop saw because it, whatever. So
the reason I asked, and I joke aside, but, and I don't know if you've come to this point or not, but, we're working on, just in our own portfolio right now, stabilizing, we're looking at converting essentially a bank into multifamily apartments. And the lender on it, who I work with in this particular instance, he goes, well, have you run a project like that? And I said, well, sure enough, I have. Here's some stuff. And we're connecting the dot. We were talking about, if you have this videographer to the point where now lenders are actually seeing this is actionable and tangible, I really think there's a huge opportunity there that's going to be coming as we're talking about technology, where not only did I do it, here's the actual process. And here's how I know I have that proof of concept. And I think you guys are so ahead of the curve on that. Even if you're not applying it yet, it's just really tangible and actionable.
Yeah, so
that has come into play.
In regards to private lending. So we like to utilize private lenders when we do our BRRRR properties. And because we've documented so much in the process, a lot of our viewers that are interested in private lending, they already know the markets that we invest in. They already know our process. They can trust that we know what we're doing. We're not just, some, foreign entity. So we actually met with a private lender, talked for like an hour about everything but real estate and lending. So by the end of the conversation, we were like, so you want to talk about, maybe potentially lending? He was like, oh no, we're good. Like, I know what awesome. You guys do. Like, when a property comes up, just let me know.
Yeah. So it definitely has acted as this like digital resume or digital portfolio that people can look at, because you guys know, like, and trust are the three main factors. And by putting ourselves out there, we're definitely taking care of those. So when it does come down to a deal, people feel like they know us. And I love that.
Yeah.
That is great.
Great answer.
Right. One thing I wanted to touch on, talking about the do-it-yourself, and Kyle, how did you get into the construction? Like, I figured you were in the trades, not a detective. How did you get the construction background?
So I just grew up in a house where like we didn't call a contractor. When something needed fixing, my father would just fix it. So it was always just me alongside my dad, learning kind of along the way. But that's why our first duplex that we renovated was such like a mess, because all I had ever done was single projects, never a full renovation altogether. So that was a huge learning process. But for anybody out there that's that says, oh, I have no experience, well, jump on YouTube jump on get some books that like show plumbing, home renovation, and then just do it. I mean, all of the things that I learned were just in doing it. That's it.
Yeah.
But on that note, I wanted to touch on, if you are going to change hiring out, I think you have the intention of hiring out some the current BRRRR, right? The entire gut renovation for the first time. Jake said we should ask about that. Going forward, is that something where, I guess, if you're not going to be doing it, is going to the Rentals to Wealth YouTube channel going to shift?
Models, if you will.
Yeah.
We've talked about this.
So we think our audience, and if you guys are listening, let us know if we're wrong. We think our audience is going to take a similar path that we're taking. Yeah. They're going to start out by buying, one or two houses, and they're going to do some things on their own. And as they grow, they're going to realize that to scale, they need to outsource more things. So we hope that by us going through the process and sharing the lessons that we're learning, we're just paving a way for other people to go as well. And obviously you could take whatever path you want, but there's still going to be lessons to learn. There's still, like, people always ask, how do you find contractors? How do you manage contractors? How do you transition? So we think it's still going to be valuable. Yes, we're probably going to lose the people who follow us strictly for the renovation content.
No, we're still going to do some projects.
Yeah, there'll still be projects.
There'll still be some projects.
But I think it would be unfair for people to expect us not to grow.
Yeah.
And I hope that they come along with us. And if they don't, that's fine. But you can't be mad at growth, I think.
Well,
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think the genuine answer in heading towards your goals. I mean, you guys are being upfront. You're being so transparent about it. And from an audience standpoint, it'll kind of be cool, I think, to see the maturation and to see the growth. Because now you're on the other side of it, right? So it's like we say all the time. It's not just about getting to the top. It's about staying there. And now you're kind of showing along this journey and this blueprint you've really laid out that you hit the nail on the head. It's relatable. You're not the guy coming in with a RIT fund from Wall Street, buying 500 units to start or a syndication. You're saying you can follow this very clearly outlined blueprint, and guess what? You can also arrive here or whatever your goals are. And I don't. If anything, I think it's going to grow, to be honest, because you guys do such a good job with it. So that's my opinion. Yeah. All right.
All right,
Time
so
to move on.
now we'll move on to the segment we call Addicted to Problem Solving. I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'll ask a question anyway. Today's prize is a Tell Us Why t-shirt. You can find it in the Tell Us Why swag shop. And today's question is from Caitlin Scary. How did you decide you wanted to get into real estate?
So
My wife made me. I know the feeling.
Actually, the person that brought it to me initially back in like 2015. For me personally, like, my parents were just blue collar people. My mother's 70. She still works out of necessity. So I just saw that, and Lauren had mentioned it earlier, but I had seen both my parents work till an elderly age, and I didn't want to have to be forced to be in that position. So when she brought something that I liked working with my hands, and it was an investment opportunity to be able to do that, I was all on board.
And real estate is the vehicle. I think the decision was, we need to do something that's going to provide us long-term passive income in the future to allow us to not have to rely on W-2 jobs for the rest of our lives. So that could have been, we could have went the frugal, like Dave Ramsey index fund route. We could have started a different type of business. We could have invested in other things. I think part of our mindset growth is that, yes, we're real estate investors, but we're really entrepreneurs, so it doesn't specifically have to be real estate. In the future, we might start or own other businesses. So real estate is definitely the vehicle. It just happens to be a vehicle that we really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
an awesome
sounds a lot
answer.
like lifestyle design to me.
Yeah, it's multiple streams of income. It's intercepting. It's looking through the same lens. It's creating that passive income. And again, starting with the end in mind, right? And we talk about that all the time in the community, to the listeners, to the the Facebook groups, at the webinars, at the meetups. You start with the end in mind, and other opportunities will come through that as it all kind of interweaves together. But you have to have that clear picture of where you're going. So,
and
great
that
answer.
picture can change. Like when we first started, so Kyle has a forced retirement age at 55, and generally people will then go get a second career after they retire from their first career. And I was like, yo, how cool would it be though if when you retire at 55, you don't have to get another job? Like, what if we could just get enough real estate?
I love your sales pitch.
Yeah, like that could be pretty cool. So when we first started, our goal was originally I think it was like 30 paid off units by the time we're 55.
Yeah.
Well, as you get started, you get addicted and this gets fun, and the goal has since increased in size and shortened in timeline.
Yeah. So it's like, how cool would it be if I could retire before 55?
Now it's by 45, and it's, but people like her are dangerous because I know that warm but aggressive sales approach. I know that tactic. So you got a good one there.
It's most beneficial. So she can keep that selling to me anytime.
I like it. That was awesome. Awesome answer.
All right, so we'll move on to the big three. These are the three questions we ask every guest every week, and we'll start with a college question. So I know you guys met in college. In your opinion, other than that fact, is college worth it?
So it's an interesting question. I would say we also both went to liberal arts state schools. We didn't go to a specific trade
Yeah.
school or like Ivy League school where I think has different experiences. For me, I think going away to college is worth it for the personal development and life lessons you learn, like time management,
Yes.
Socialization, prioritization.
It's everything but the content that you learn. Because honestly, I couldn't tell you one thing that I've implemented in any of my classes in my job and life now, other than the time management, being able to hold yourself accountable for things and not have somebody there over your shoulder telling you what to do.
And like living with roommates and, being an adult.
Yeah.
I do work in the online ed space right now for non-degrees. So we're all about like lifelong learning and being proactive and that the learning never stops. So from that standpoint, I'm all about education. I don't think it needs to be a structured 4-year undergraduate degree. You can learn on YouTube how to renovate a house. You can learn on YouTube how to invest in fund, like index funds. You can learn on YouTube how to repair your car. I mean, literally anything. And then there's other areas like Coursera, edX, all these online platforms that you could learn from professors at Ivy League and high-end schools for an extremely discounted price. So we're all for education, but I don't necessarily know if an undergraduate liberal arts degree is worth it if you're not going to live there.
At least for the path that we're on.
That was the most polite and politically correct answer, and I loved it because you're right. We're huge on education, and my wife came from higher ed, and we had her on last week. So, entrepreneur, retired from real estate, as she's still doing consulting for MIT, and she's like, "How do you want me to answer this?" I'm like, "Well, you got to answer it." That was a great answer, which leads to the next one, and my favorite question. Kyle, we'll start with you, and then toss it over. What is one piece of actionable advice you would go back and give your 18-year-old self?
I never had any finance advice from anybody. Like I said, my parents were blue collar. They didn't invest. They didn't have much savings. It would be to just save money, because that's how we bought our first place, was with Lauren's savings. And it's the way that you can get into the game of real estate investing. It would have been to manage my money better at a younger age and start stocking some cash away.
Great answer. Lauren?
Mine would be to buy a single family house while we were in college and rent it out to our friends instead of paying for on and then off campus housing. We went to Rowan University in Glassboro, New Jersey, which has since exploded.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This was a thought. I do remember my parents like very vaguely for a very short period of time mentioning like buying a house while I was there, but it never turned into anything. And then I don't know real estate. So obviously I was like, whatever, as long as I was very fortunate. They paid for me to live while I was in college. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I don't care. As long as you provide me housing, I don't really care what it is. But looking back now, I wish we bought a house while we were in college.
And that's why we ask it. So everyone listening knows.
The room situation going, that'd be
awesome. House hacking it. Oh yeah, a lot of people kill it.
7-bedroom house for college students.
Oh yeah. $1,000 a month a room. Yeah.
Moving on to the 90-year-old question: what is one thing you would want your 90-year-old self to say to you?
So hard, and it could go in so many directions.
Yeah.
Be careful, Kyle. Your wife's sitting next to you.
So I would say that probably my 90-year-old self would say, go for the bigger boat. Because we want to get a boat, but I know that when we do, it's going to be like something that's smart. And I think that when you buy a boat, it's never
your assets are going to pay for your liabilities.
I would hope that my 90-year-old self says, damn, that was fun. Yeah. Or something along the lines that we didn't play it safe. We enjoyed life and took it for all it was worth.
What a great answer.
I like that a lot.
What a great answer.
I like it.
That's actually one of the best answers we've had on that question. Ooh. So look at you, rock star. You guys delivered. Jake said you guys were good. I know you were this good. So there you go. That's awesome. All right. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, we answer every DM, every comment on our Instagram at Rentals to Wealth, and then also on our YouTube channel, also Rentals to Wealth.
Awesome.
Before we let you go, is there anything you need or want to tell our listeners?
Don't hesitate any longer. You mentioned it earlier that there's a million reasons why not to start. just start. Get your first property. If anything, there's nothing more that you can learn from podcasts and books that you can't learn from the actual experience of purchasing your first property. Start beginning to build equity, and you can leverage that home in the next coming years for another opportunity.
Yeah, there's two things I always say. You'll never regret a workout, and every investor will wish they started sooner. So I just feel like real estate's very forgiving, especially rentals. So as Kyle said, just start now.
Pull the trigger.
I love it.
Love it. Absolutely great. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
great,
This was fun.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, but probably one of the most fun podcasts.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Jackpot.
All right. And with that, for the Tell Us Why community, where can people get a hold of us, Jack? Where can they connect?
Don't already follow us on social media. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere.
Everywhere they have it.
Everywhere.
Coming to TikTok soon.
Or,
if you want, we record most Wednesdays in the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe in Salem, New Hampshire. Come check us out. We'd love to have live studio audience members. And what is the quote of the week?
Quote of the week, real wealth is about freedom. It's by James Clear. So that's it for today. Be sure to join us next week. And until next week's episode,
Bet on yourself.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.